Hey everybody, how's it going? Today is going to be just a little bit different of a video because I recently heard a song and I really liked it, but I think the central premise is representative of an issue with my generation and really I think generations similar to mine. I don't know how far back you could trace it because I'm not a historian or really any kind of expert on generational differences, but I think most of this attitude can be attributed to the change of technology and just the change of the world in general occurring so fast we have no time to really adapt to it, and ultimately we get behind while the younger generations kind of stay forward, which means we live in this area where the younger generations feel like they're so ahead of the older generations, and that just causes frustration between both of them. And I think that's kind of the cause of this general attitude that I'm talking about. But the song is so good, and it's really good if you like 80s synthwave type music. I'm going to be pacing a little bit here because that's kind of what I do. If I'm on the phone, I'm walking back and forth in my house. So anyway, I don't know what I'm saying anymore. But the song is called... And it's by a band called Gunship. It's a really good song, and the title is based off a line in the movie The Breakfast Club, where I don't know the name of the girl because I saw The Breakfast Club one time in a theater because it was like a retro showing of it. My brother wanted me to go, so I went, and I had a fun time. But in the movie The Breakfast Club, which is, I don't really know, I don't want to say what the movie's about because I'm going to have a million film analysts telling me, well, it's actually about teenage angst and the pressure of the public school system. What came across to me in the movie is the crushing feeling of the older generation on the younger generation. Now, I didn't go to public school. I was actually homeschooled, so I can't relate a lot to the characters in the movie. But whatever the case is, I think the central premise of that line, when you grow up, your heart dies, to which she is responded by this cool dude. He's like, who cares? And she's like, in tears. She's like, I care. And it's so, I think it's very representative of this attitude that I think is really poisonous because what it does is it teaches us, and by us, I don't really want to define the age, because I feel like ever since things have been constantly expanding, ever since the early 1900s, it's been somewhat of a problem. I guess you could point a lot more towards the 60s is when stuff like this started, that kind of attitude started taking off a lot more. But I'm not a historian. I'm just talking about here and now. I'm not trying to trace it back to its full roots. But it's this idea that growing up, right, becoming an adult, going into adulthood. Sorry, did I not say that scary enough? Adulthood. Moving into adulthood means you have to leave everything behind. Means it's like a hard cutoff. Being a kid, or experiencing the whimsy and excitement of childhood is something that you no longer are allowed to do, and you have to set it down and put it behind you. And that's what adulthood is. That's what adulthood is supposed to be. At least how we're taught, I think, in a lot of different areas of media in the world. But I don't think that's the case. I'm an adult, I live on my own, look what I have I have a poster for Adam Young on my wall. I have a paper cutout of the lunar module and the command module that I made in college because I was an RA and we needed wall decorations and my theme was space. I have N64 titles boxes across my mantle. I have this piece, but you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of things that I did in my childhood that I still like to do and I pursue, but I've also taken on the responsibilities of adulthood. And I wonder if maybe it's just responsibility is something we're taught to be afraid of in some way. But I just don't think you have to be. I think the world can still be a beautiful, amazing, and fascinating place, whether you're a child or you're an adult. And when you move on into adulthood, I think that especially in this age of information where you can just look anything up, when was the first pin setter for bowling invented? Or when was the first computerized bowling system invented? I don't know why I'm asking so many things about bowling. I like bowling, it's fun. But you can be fascinated with the world and with the progression of technology and everything and still be an adult. That's totally okay. Now, it's not okay to say, I don't want to have any responsibility. Like, that's kind of important to a functioning society, is people who want to be responsible and people who do things to make the world continue to turn, basically, because otherwise everything collapses. We can't all be kids forever, and that's what we hear and we're afraid of, but that doesn't mean that you can't have that excitement and whimsy of childhood still in you. And maybe this is just me speaking as someone who is constantly in my head, in my imagination, thinking of crazy, cool things. You know, I'm also a very optimistic person, so maybe that contributes to it. But I feel like you don't have to be afraid of growing up. You have to be prepared for growing up, but you don't have to be afraid of it. And I think I just realized another song that kind of deals with this is Stressed Out. Stop blinking on me. What are you doing? My light, I didn't want you to know I had a light here. Sometimes this lighting kit, if you have it set to full, it starts blinking. Probably something to do with the battery or the connections there. Anyway, that's beyond what I was trying to talk about. But in the song Stressed Out by 21 Pilots, it's basically saying, like, why can't we go back to when we were kids? When we didn't have to worry about anything. Now we have to make money. We have to pay taxes. I don't think they talk about taxes, but we have to pay bills and all this stuff. Like, it's that mentality. But all of that stuff, if we're less taught, because we're always taught to fear taxes. We're always taught to fear bills and all that stuff. We're always taught, bills again, that's the worst thing. Bills aren't the worst thing ever. It makes sense. I'm living in a house, I have to pay rent. And if we're taught not to fear that, but to understand that, like, that's how it's gonna be, I don't know. Like I said, I went into this, I don't know if I said this actually. These are just kind of like rambling thoughts about it. I just don't think we have to be afraid of adulthood. I think a lot of it does come from the fact that college is a very crushing and painful atmosphere to be in. When I left college, I didn't realize just how stressful it was until I was finally out and on my own. Because it's just like having homework outside of the times that you're in class. Blah, it's so hard. It's terrible. College is honestly the most stressful part of life I have ever been through. And now that I'm out of college and I have a job and I'm doing stuff that's not college, life is a lot easier and a lot less just difficult to go through. I'm paying way more bills and I'm doing a lot more of that than I was doing in college. And I'm paying off my student loans, of course. I guess that's kind of stressful, but it's nowhere near the crushing atmosphere. And so I think when we're pushed to go into college, and two, get into college and feel the pressure of that, we think this is adulthood. It's terrible. I don't want to do this. Adulthood is really rewarding. There's a lot of really cool things. It's really cool to now be able to buy my family Christmas presents because I have a job. It's really cool to have the ability to spend time doing creative projects. It's like there's a whole lot of really rewarding things in adulthood, and I think that we just get adulthood gets just such a bad rap, and it's really sad. I don't know. Like I said, I did not put an outline for this video or anything at all. These are just a few rambling thoughts. Obviously, I'm going to edit it so I sound smart. But yeah, I guess my advice to try to wrap this up, I don't know, I don't even have a closing thought formulated, so let's see if this works. Don't be afraid of adulthood. Understand that life is stressful at all different points of life. There's different things in life that are stressful, and adulthood is inherently more stressful than childhood because there's more responsibility attached to it. However, that doesn't mean it's something to fear, because it may be full of more responsibilities, but you've also developed as a person. Childhood is a time to develop and become a person who is prepared for adulthood. That's the whole idea. That's not the whole idea. That's the whole purpose of childhood, is to eventually prepare for adulthood, to learn about the world. And when you hit adulthood, you don't have to stop that. You don't have to stop being amazed by things. You don't have to stop enjoying things that are fun. You do have to behave socially. That's important. You have to pay taxes and bills and all that other stuff. that is the not fun stuff with adulthood, but you're like, you have relative freedom to now like discover so much more about the world. And I just think that's really cool. And I just don't think adulthood is something you gotta fear. So, When You Grow Up, Your Heart Dies, excellent song. Seriously, listen to it. I love it. It's so good, by Gunship. When you Grow Up, Your Heart Dies by Gunship. Beautiful song. But I think it's a very incorrect premise. And that is all that I had to say. So, I know it's a little bit different of a video than I usually do, but I don't have anything I usually do anyway. So, thank you so much for watching. I'm got some projects lined up. Who knows how long it's going to take. No release dates promised at all, because that never works out. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys